This is a timeline of events that stretched over the period of World War II from 1941, marked also by the beginning of Operation Barbarossa on the Eastern Front, January 1941. One accounting of the previous night's bombing of London reveals that the Old Bailey, the Guildhall, and 8 churches by Christopher Wren were destroyed or badly damaged. RAF bombs aircraft factories in Bremen, Germany. 2. German bombers, perhaps off-course, bomb Irish Free State for the second night in a row. 2-4. Bardier is bombed by British bombers and bombarded by naval vessels offshore. 3. RAF bombers attacked Bremen and the Kiel Canal in Germany. The Kiel Canal Bridge suffered a direct hit and collapsed on Finnish ships YRSA. 5. Operation Compass. Australian troops of 13th Corps capture Italian-held Bardia and 45,000 Italian prisoners are taken. Tobruk, the next target, is 70 miles away. The leader of Wallonia's fascist party, Elia Couto Endegrel, gives a speech in the German-occupied city of Liege announcing the support of the Rexist party for German Nazism. 6. The Greeks advance towards Klishura Pass. 7. British and Commonwealth offensive in North Africa nears Tobruk, the airport is taken. 10. Lend-Lease introduced into the U.S. Congress. German-Soviet border and commercial agreement is signed. German aircraft damage aircraft carrier HMS Illustrious, which is heading for Malta. German Luftwaffe, it is now clear, has command of air over the Mediterranean. The attack is also the opening of Malta's agony over the next months. Greek forces in Albania take the strategically important Klishura Pass. 11. In London, 57 people are killed and 69 injured when a German bomb lands outside the Bank of England, demolishing the underground station below and leaving a 120-foot crater. 12. Operation Compass. British and Australian troops of 13th Corps prepare for the assault on Italian-held Tobruk. 13. Heavy Luftwaffe night raid on Plymouth. 14. First use of V for Victory, by Victor de Lavallee on the BBC's Belgian service, Radio Belgium. 15. The rivalry between Chinese nationalists and Chinese communists becomes more evident. Large numbers of the latter are forced to give up their arms. Reluctantly, of course. 16. British forces start the first attacks of their East African counter-offensive, on Italian-held Ethiopia, from Kenya. German bombers pound Valletta, Malta, and the HMS Illustrious is hit again. 17. The Battle of Koh Chang ended in a decisive victory for the Vichy French naval forces during the Franco-Thai War. Molotov meets German ambassador Schulenburg in Moscow. The Soviets are surprised that they have not received any answer from Germany to their offer to join the Axis. Schulenburg replies that it has to be first discussed with Italy and Japan. 18. Air raids on Malta increasing in focus and intensity. 19. The 4th and 5th Indian Divisions continue the British counter-offensive in East Africa, attacking Italian-held Eritrea from the Sudan. Hitler and Mussolini meet at Berchtesgaden. Hitler agrees to provide aid in North Africa. 21. Operation Compass. British and Australian troops of 13th Corps complete capture of Italian-held Tobruk. There are reports that Romanian fascists are executing Jews in Bucharest. 23. HMS Illustrious, heavily damaged, leaves Malta for repairs in Alexandria. Charles Lindbergh testifies before the U.S. Congress and recommends that the United States negotiate a neutrality pact with Adolf Hitler. 24. British forces in Kenya continue the East African counter-offensive, attacking Italian Somaliland. 29. Death of the Greek dictator, Ioannis Metaxas. 30. British forces in North Africa take Derna, 100 miles west of Tobruk. 31. Indian 4th Division flanked and then captured Agordat, Eritrea, Italian East Africa. 1,000 Italian troops and 43 field guns were captured. February 1941. 1. Admiral Husband Kimmel is appointed the commander of the U.S. Navy in the Pacific. 3. Lieutenant General Erwin Rommel is appointed head of German Army troops in Africa. This unit is later to be officially designated as the Afrika Korps. Germany forcibly restores Pierre Laval to office in Vichy. 7. Operation Compass. After several days of desperate fighting, a flying column of 13th Corps called Coomforce cuts off the retreating Italian 10th Army during the Battle of Bader Fomm. The Italians are unable to break through the small blocking force and the British accept the surrender of roughly 130,000 Italians into the south of Benghazi. 8. U.S. House of Representatives passes the Lend-Lease Bill. 9. Mussolini is informed that German reinforcements are on the way to North Africa. British forces reach El Agheila, Cyrenaica. British battleships shell Genoa and British aircraft attack Livorno. Churchill again pleads with the U.S. Give us the tools. 10. Malta's critical period. Now through March, it is under heavy daily attack. 11. Elements of the Afrika Korps start to arrive in Tripoli, Tripolitania. British forces enter Italian Somaliland. 14. Rommel arrives in Tripoli. Afrika Korps starts to move eastward towards the advanced British positions at El Agheila. The British in North Africa have been weakened by the transfer of some troops to Greece. 15. Deportation of Austrian Jews to ghettos in Poland begins. 19. The start of the three-night blitz of Swansea, South Wales. Over these 3 nights of intensive bombing, Swansea town centre is almost completely obliterated. 20. German and British troops confront each other for the first time in North Africa, at El Agheila, in western Libya. 21. German forces move through Bulgaria toward the Greek front. 24. German U-boat offensive in the Atlantic is now increasingly successful. Admiral Darlan is appointed the head of the Vichy government in France. 25. The British submarine, Upright, sinks the Italian cruiser, Armando Diaz, in one of the numerous sea battles in the North African campaign. Mogadishu, the capital of Italian Somaliland, is captured by British forces during the East African campaign. 28. RAF planes bomb Asmara, Eritrea. March 1941. 1. Hitler gives orders for the expansion of Auschwitz prison camp, to be run by Commandant Rudolf Hess. 4. British commandos carry out attack on oil facilities at Narvik in Norway. British military force in Libya is thinned down as some men are sent to assist the Greeks in their emerging battle with approaching German troops. Prince Regent Paul of Yugoslavia agrees to join the Axis Pact. 7. First British troops land in Greece, at Piraeus. 8. Another bombing of London, notable because Buckingham Palace is hit. 9. The Italian spring offensive in the Albanian front begins. 10. British and Italian troops meet in a brief conflict in Eritrea. Portsmouth suffers heavy casualties after another night of heavy bombing by the Luftwaffe. 11. United States President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signs the Lend-Lease Act allowing Britain, China, and other allied nations to purchase military equipment and to defer payment until after the war. 12. German panzer tanks arrive in North Africa, providing heavy armor for the first major German offensive. 13. The Luftwaffe strikes with a large force at Glasgow and the shipping industry along the River Clyde. 17. Huge convoy losses in mid-Atlantic this week. The United States of America converts its corps areas to defense commands, with the term corps reassigned as an intermediate field command of a field army. 19. Worst bombing of London so far this year, with heavy damage from incendiary bombs. Plymouth and Bristol are bombed again. 20. The Italian spring offensive is called off, after heavy losses and virtually no progress. 21. The Yugoslav cabinet resigns in protest against Prince Paul's pact with the Nazis. Street demonstration occur, expressive of a deep dislike for Germany. 24. Rommel attacks and reoccupies Al-Agila, Libya in his first offensive. The British retreat and within 3 weeks are driven back to Egypt. 25. Italian MTMs of the Decima Mars sink the heavy cruiser HMS York, a large tanker, another tanker and a cargo ship in Suda Bay, Crete. 27. Crown Prince Peter becomes Peter II of Yugoslavia and takes control of Yugoslavia after an army coup overthrows the pro-German government of the Prince Regent. Japanese spy Takeo Yoshikawa arrives in Honolulu, Hawaii and begins to study the United States fleet at Pearl Harbor. Hitler orders his military leaders to plan for the invasion of Yugoslavia. One result of this decision will be a critical time delay in the invasion of Soviet Union. British forces advancing from the Sudan win the decisive Battle of Keren in Eritrea. Battle of Cape Matapan. The British Navy meets an Italian fleet off southern Greece. The battle continues until the 29th. 31. The Afrika Korps continues the German offensive in North Africa. Massaur Brega, north of El Agila, is taken. April 1941. 1. British retreat after the losses at El Agila, Libya. Rommel is surprised, then decides to continue his offensive. During this month, the heavy bombing of British cities continues, and convoy losses continue heavy. In Iraq, pro-German Rashid Ali and other members of the Golden Square stage a military coup d'etat and overthrow the regime of the pro-British regent, Abd al-Ilah. Rashid Ali names himself chief of a national defense government. 2. After taking Ajdabiya, Rommel decides to take all of Libya and moves his troops toward Benghazi. All of Cyrenaica seems ready for the taking. 3. A pro-Axis government is installed in Iraq. Bristol, England, suffers another heavy air attack. British troops take Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, from the Italian armies. Rommel takes Benghazi, Libya. Tobruk will remain a threat for the next 7 months. 4. Rommel is now about 200 miles east of El Agila, heading for Tobruk and Egypt. An Atlantic convoy suffers almost 50% losses to U-boat campaign. 6. Forces of Germany, Hungary, and Italy, moving through Romania and Hungary, initiate the invasions of Yugoslavia and Greece. The Italian army is driven out from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The northern wing of Rommel's forces take Derna, on the Libyan coast. The southern wing moves toward Mekelle, and takes it on the 8th. 7. The Luftwaffe begins a 2-day assault on Belgrade, Yugoslavia. Hitler is infuriated by the Yugoslav resistance. 8. The Germans take Salonika, Greece. 10. Greenland is occupied by the United States. With the approval of a free Denmark, the U.S. will build naval and air bases as counters to the U-boat war. While still being invaded, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia is split up by Germany and Italy. The independent state of Croatia is established under Ante Pavelic and his Ustašar. Germans encircle the port of Tobruk, Libya, opening the siege. Some of Rommel's forces move east to take Fort Capuzzo and Sollum, on the border with Egypt. The destroyer US Niblak attacks a German U-boat that had just sunk a Dutch freighter. The Niblak was picking up survivors of the freighter when it detected the U-boat preparing to attack. The Niblak attacked with depth charges and drove off the U-boat. 11. Though still a neutral nation, the United States begins sea patrols in the North Atlantic. Heavy Luftwaffe raids on Coventry and Birmingham, England. 12. Belgrade, Yugoslavia, surrenders. The Germans defeat Commonwealth forces at the Battle of Vevi. 13. Malta is bombed again. It continues to be a thorn in the side of German supply movements in the Mediterranean. Japan and the Soviet Union sign a neutrality pact. In Iraq, a small contingent of British reinforcements are airlifted to Raf Shaiba. 14. Rommel attacks Tobruk, but is forced to turn back. Other attacks, also failures, occur on the 16th and 30th. LSSAH captures the strategic Klysora Pass and begins cutting the line of retreat for the Greek army in Albania. 15. British destroyers intercept an Africa Corps convoy and sink all 5 transports and the 3 covering Italian destroyers. 16. A heavy Luftwaffe raid on Belfast, Northern Ireland. Germans continue the invasion southward into Yugoslavia. They cut off the Greek army in Albania, which had had notable success against the Italians in January. 17. Yugoslavia surrenders. A government in exile is formed in London. King Peter escapes to Greece. 18. Greek Prime Minister Alexandros Korizis commits suicide. The British plan the major evacuation of Greece. In Iraq, in accordance with the Anglo-Iraqi Treaty, British forces from India start to land at Basra. 19. London suffers one of the heaviest air raids in the war. St. Paul's is mildly damaged but remains closed. Other Rent churches are heavily damaged or destroyed. 21. With their retreat cut off by the German advance, 223,000 Greek soldiers of the Greek army in Albania surrender. 22. The British, both military and civilian, begin to evacuate Greece. 23. Greek government is evacuated to Crete, which Churchill is determined to defend. 24. British and Australian forces evacuate from Greece to Crete and Egypt. Plymouth suffers the third night of heavy bombing by the Luftwaffe. 25. Rommel wins an important victory at Halfaya Pass, close to the Egyptian border. Axis forces defeat Commonwealth forces at Thermopylae after Australian General George Vasey staunchly claims that they will not be beaten. 26. Rommel attacks the Gazala defense line and crosses into Egypt. Tobruk continues to hold, however. 27. Athens is occupied by German troops. Greece surrenders. Hurricane fighter planes are delivered as important reinforcements for besieged Malta. 30. Rommel is ordered to cease attacks on Tobruk after another failure. In Iraq, Iraqi armed forces occupy the plateau to the south of the Raf Habaniya air base and inform the base commander that all flying should cease immediately. May 1941. 1. 7 nights of bombing of Liverpool by the Luftwaffe begins, resulting in widespread destruction. 2. British forces at Raf Habaniya launch preemptive air strikes against Iraqi forces besieging them and the Anglo-Iraqi War begins. 3. Belfast, Northern Ireland, experiences another heavy bombing by the Luftwaffe. British forces in Ethiopia begin the investment of Amberalagi, where Italian forces under the Duke of Aosta have taken up defensive positions. 5 years from the day he was forced to flee, Emperor Haile Selassie enters Addis Ababa, his capital, in triumph. 6. With much of the Iraqi Air Force destroyed and facing regular bombardment themselves, the Iraqi ground forces besieging Raf Habaniya withdraw. The Luftwaffe arranges to send a small force to Iraq. 7. Between Habaniya and Fallujah, 2 Iraqi columns are caught in the open and attacked by roughly 40 British aircraft. The Iraqis suffer heavy casualties. 8. Heavy convoy losses in the Atlantic continue, however. 1 U-boat is captured by the British Navy and another copy of the Enigma machine is discovered and saved. It will help to turn the fortunes in the Atlantic battle. Bombing of Nottingham by the Luftwaffe. 9. The Japanese brokered peace treaty signed in Tokyo ends the French-Thai War. 10. Rudolf Hess is captured in Scotland after bailing out of his plane. His self-appointed mission was to make peace with the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom's House of Commons is damaged by the Luftwaffe in an air raid. Other targets are Hull, Liverpool, Belfast, and the shipbuilding area of the River Clyde in Scotland. This is close to the end of the Blitz, as Germany shifts its focus towards Soviet Union and the East. The Strike of the 100,000 begins in Liege in Belgium on the anniversary of the German invasion of 1940. It soon spreads across the whole province until nearly 70,000 workers are on strike. 12. The RAF bombs several German cities, including Hamburg, Emden, and Berlin. The Soviet Union recognizes Rashid Ali's National Defense Government in Iraq. 13. Yugoslav Army Colonel Draza Mihailović summons up the Yugoslav army in the fatherland, which mostly consists of Serbs, but also includes Slovenes, Bosnians, and Croats. Mihailović treks from Bosnia into central Serbia, Ravna Gora, and issues an uprising call promising a struggle against the occupiers and the restoration of the Yugoslavian monarchy. At this point, Josip Broz Tito and the Yugoslav partisans are aligned with the Soviet Union, which is still friendly with Germany. The bulk of the German Flyer Command Iraq arrives in Mosul to support the Iraqi government of Rashid Ali. 14. The RAF is authorized to act against German aircraft in Syria and on Vichy French airfields. 15. First civilian public service camp opens for conscientious objectors in the United States. 16. Rommel defeats a counterattack, Brevity, at Halfaya Pass. The two sides trade alternating control of Fort Capuzzo and Halfaya Pass. 17. British forces in the Habaniyah area advance on Iraqi-held Fallujah and, in 5 days fighting, push the Iraqis out. 18. The Duke of Aosta, Viceroy of Italian East Africa, surrenders his forces at Amber Alagi. 20. German paratroopers land on Crete. The battle for Crete will continue for 7 days. The German military mission to Iraq, Special Staff F, is created to support of the Arab freedom movement in the Middle East. Sonderstab F is to include Flyer Jafura, Iraq and other elements already in Iraq. 21. The U.S. merchantman SS Robin Moore is sunk by German submarine U-69. The incident startles the nation, and President Roosevelt shortly announces an unlimited national emergency. The Italian viceroy in Ethiopia surrenders. Remnants of Italian troops keep on fighting. 22. Iraqi forces unsuccessfully counterattack the British forces in Fallujah and are rebuffed. 23. German dictator Adolf Hitler issues Führer Directive No. 30 in support of the Arab freedom movement in the Middle East, his natural ally against England. 24. British battlecruiser HMS Hood is sunk by a powerful salvo from German battleship Bismarck in the North Atlantic. The Greek government leaves Crete for Cairo. 26. In the North Atlantic, Royal Navy ferry Swordfish aircraft from the carrier HMS Ark Royal fatally crippled the Bismarck in torpedo attack. 27. The German battleship Bismarck is sunk in the North Atlantic by the Royal Navy, after evasive tactics, and a damaged steering system which forced it into an endless series of circular movements. The British forces from the Habaniyah area begin an advance on Baghdad and, within 4 days, approach the city from the west and from the north. 12 Italian aircraft arrive at Mosul to join Flyer Jafura, Iraq. 28. British and Commonwealth forces begin to evacuate Crete. By this date, it is clear that Operation Brevity has failed. 29. Members of the German military mission flee Iraq. 30. Rashid Ali and his supporters flee Iraq. 31. Heavy Luftwaffe bombing on neutral island's capital, numerous civilian casualties. The mayor of Baghdad surrenders the city to British forces and ends the Anglo-Iraqi War.